Welcome to another episode of the Get Your Edge podcast. I'm your host, Brian Bott from Sports Advantage in Verona, Beaver Dam, Wanakee, Oconomowoc, Menominee Falls, Appleton, and January 1st, gym number 7 will be in Middleton, Wisconsin, baby. We just signed a lease today. We are going to be opening a gym right next to Kiva Sports in Middleton, Wisconsin, ultra jacked. Ryan Groy, former Middleton Cardinal, helping bring Sports Advantage back home for him. So really excited to announce that tonight. But Dino, I'm with my co-host Coach Manchi. We got an electric guest tonight. We are jacked up to this one.
Well, Brian, this is going to be awesome, and I'm super, really looking forward to that Appleton opening in January as well, because that's right in my wheelhouse up here in the Fox Valley. So super excited about that, Brian.
Well, Dino, we got a strength guy on tonight. We got a strength guy. He is one of the pioneers in strength and conditioning in my mind. He's a guy that's always up to talk. He's sharing information all the time. And that's my man, ZEE, Zach AdvantEDGE. Zach, how you doing, brother?
I'm pumped. And listen, your last guest, Steve, I forget his last name.
Steve Breitenstein.
He crushed it. So there's pressure on me, but pressure is a privilege. I like it. Let's go, baby.
Zach, you've been in this game for a long time. Maybe tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and how you got into strength and conditioning.
Sure. In high school, I wrestled. Leading up to high school, just played soccer. My dad, I'm actually an immigrant. We moved to America when I was 11 months old. So my dad's from Romania, then moved to Israel. So my mom's from Israel. So my dad wasn't really familiar with American sports, football, baseball. So in the 80s, after work, my dad would come home, he'd take us to the park. I'd be playing soccer. And, guys did not speak English. I remember there was, Spanish guys. There was guys from like Haiti. And my dad would take me to play like street ball, so to speak. Same thing with basketball. There would be pickup basketball games at the local park and against grown men. And so we learned all like street ball. But what got me into the lifting and the training was my older brother was very into training that was, always like finding a way to push himself. He's 2.5 years older than me. He was buying bodybuilding magazines. Then he would buy the supplements. Then I would go with him to the mall, riding our bikes and book bags to buy 10-pound weights to add. And he was buying equipment. And I was kind of like going into his room, reading bodybuilding books, bodybuilding magazines, trying to learn a little bit, but it didn't nothing clicked for me. Nothing. 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, end of 8th grade. I still remember training, following a program out of Arnold's Encyclopedia, and I never stopped training. That was early June 1989. And I don't know what happened, but I fell in love with training. I was so obsessed with it. I'd be reading about it at night, by day. I'd go to the convenience store. I would read all their magazines to the point where I remember the guy it must have been a 7-Eleven. He put like a sign on the magazine stand and it said, "This is not a library. If you want to read these magazines, you will buy them." And I was like, I think he's talking about me, because I couldn't stop reading the bodybuilding magazines. And so late 8th grade, my brother was finishing his sophomore year. He started wrestling. And he comes home during wrestling season and says, "I just joined the most awesome sport in the world." And I'm like, "What is it? What is the sport?" He's like, "It's called wrestling." He's like, "You fight people every day." And so my older brother would get into a lot of fights, and I was like the complete opposite. I never got into fights. I didn't have any of that in me. And I joined wrestling freshman year, and kind of like today, but maybe it was a bit like localized then. All those kids had wrestled from like 6th grade on, 3rd grade on. I got my ass kicked every day, to the point where I had to wrestle off to try to be on the freshman team. Today, a lot of high schools, as you guys know, don't have freshman teams. Most sports do not. Maybe baseball does. Softball doesn't, wrestling doesn't, football does, basketball sometimes doesn't even have a freshman team. Long story short, I got embarrassed every day. The whole team would watch me get pinned. And it sent me into an obsession to try to get stronger. Unfortunately, everything I did was wrong. And ironically, much of what kids are still trying to do today on their own, even with all this information, is as dumb or dumber than what I did in high school. I did all the pump up work, tons of machines, high reps, forced reps, drop sets, feel the muscle, burn the muscle. No strength, no power, a lot of distance running that really beat up my knees. High volume, single body part. Talk to a kid out of high school today. I did chest yesterday. I did chest and tris yesterday. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm a full-time strength coach out of high school now, going on my 5th year. I was like, when I get to this school, these kids are going to be dialed in. Baseball players will have studied Eric Cressy. Football players probably watched Elliot Hulse's old football videos. They're going to know how to train. I got to the school, and all kids did was like bench until they almost decapitated themselves. And then they curled for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and left. Not one squat was seen, not any leg training. And so, jumping back and forth here, I was an athlete. I was a wrestler. And training the wrong way led to a lot of injuries. And I trained so hard, 7 days a week, 30 days in a row. But I wasn't strong. I wasn't powerful. And my lack of success fired me up. And then as the internet started coming about, I started researching Russian wrestling training. And I came across Elite FTS, Louis Simmons, Dave Tate, Jim Wendler. And that all started when I was in my, I'd say about mid-20s. And that happened because I tore my ACL in the early days of MMA. Back then it was called NHB, no holds barred fighting.
Yep.
And I remember was like, I'm going to redeem myself. I'm going to start winning. And I was pretty big and pretty strong, even though I still trained like a bodybuilder. I was more training like a power bodybuilder because I had learned some of the methods of the golden era bodybuilders who oftentimes would power lift. Or in the silver era, guys like Tommy Kono were bodybuilders and Olympic weightlifters. I mean, he was a gold medalist in the Olympics. So I started learning a little bit more. But after I tore my ACL, it sent me down this obsessive rabbit hole. And even to this day, like you were mentioning all these gyms you're opening, I'm still obsessed about the training, almost to the point where it maybe holds my business back a little bit. So sometimes I'm still like, man, I should probably be back at the college level. But I started coaching full-time strength and conditioning in 2002. That's when I started my business. And I've been in that time frame, private sector always, because I started my own business, garage, warehouse gyms, coached at Rutgers University. And before I actually was at Rutgers, my first location was kind of close to Rutgers. So I was a volunteer strength coach for their wrestling team. They would drive to the gym. And so that was around 2009. Then 2014, 2015, I was with Lehigh Wrestling. 2017, 2018, Rutgers Wrestling. And then 4 years, it's almost 2024.
Yeah.
2019, I think I started at this high school. In New Jersey, full-time high school strength and conditioning is a super rare. It's very new here.
Yeah.
So, my background is really combat sports, and my injuries really inspired me to try to, I don't want to say even like, I feel like I had this conversation with my buddy Craig Fitzgerald, and I know they got football tonight. He's with the Giants. He's like, Z, man, coaching for you and I is not a job. He's like, it's a calling. And that is the difference, because I was ranting to him about my frustrations and struggles that I still deal with. And I was like, I'm not going to text you any more negative messages. He's like, hey, man, I love these messages. He's like, you're frustrated. It just means you care. And so the tough thing as a coach, as I find myself a lot of times caring more than kids, And, let's face it, you're a dad. Dean, do you have
Yep.
kids, Dean? I've got kids.
Yes, I do. Yep.
And listen, I was a teenager, so I'm always like, teenagers are pretty dumb. What you're asking 16-year-olds and whatnot to make decisions that will impact the rest of their lives, the rest of their life. So it's a very, tricky thing, coaching, like learning the psychology behind everything. So, but maybe if you guys ask me questions, I'll stay better on track, because I could.
That's good.
You guys could just stay there,
That was good.
dinner,
No.
and I could keep talking.
No, I think that's, I mean, Zach, that's the one thing that I think you and I, about the two of our relationship that's kind of been built, was initially built off social media, right? You saw one of our posts, the way our kids squat and box squat and things like that. You shot a message to me. I remember messaging Dean. I'm like, hey, I think I've heard of this guy. He's messaging me. Obviously we're doing something right here, and so we got to talking, and your passion is the thing that, with kids and things like that, is what draws me to interact with you at a high level and a multiple level, whether it's over the week or whatever, because at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of people that are out doing this for the wrong reason. Now, Zach, let's talk about kind of the early days, right? I mean, we all are pretty familiar with the fact that Westside Barbell started in Louis' garage. I mean, that wasn't really publicized until, all this other stuff, but, you guys like Joe DeFranco and you and some of the other guys are really the pioneers of the garage gym, of the, the hard, like, we're going to work hard. We're going to train hard. But we're going to get after the kids, but we're going to love them up. Right. I mean, you know what I mean? So maybe kind of share a little bit about what that was like then, and then maybe a little bit of what you're seeing now. With changes in that, because it's been 20 plus years that you've been involved in that.
Yeah. So the timeline would be 2001 or 2002. I started training athletes out of my parents' garage, which was a 1-car garage, super low ceilings. I would train them in the garage, in the backyard, local playground. Then 2003, my fiance and I bought our first house, 2-car garage. The house had to get gutted. We revamped the garage first, and I ran my business for a year out of the 2-car garage before we moved in 2004. And so I was in my 2-car garage until 2007. It's when I opened and rented my first warehouse. And then in that time, there was times where I'd have multiple locations. Right now, I only have one location, but there's a great analogy. Eric Cressy shared it a couple of years ago. He's like, if there was a cage fight against my early athletes from early days Cressy Sports Performance versus Cressy Sports Performance of today, he's like, our early days guys would show up early and do like a max effort deadlift session, and then they'd enter the cage. He goes, our current day guys would have their mom call, get it scheduled. They would come in and foam roll for 10 minutes before the, and then they would somebody would be injury defaulted. So that was like this perfect analogy to like back in the day, guys would like do all this work and then they'd be like, okay, we're ready to go. No big deal. Today, what's really interesting is kids are so busy. Parents are so busy. It's like they don't even have time to train. And I'm speaking as a dad and a coach. My son is a freshman, 15, plays baseball. This weekend, we were in Pennsylvania all weekend. Well, I went just Saturday. My wife was there Friday through Sunday. Sunday, my daughter had the state tennis tournament. So I was back in New Jersey. And so I'm traveling to places I've never traveled in my life. Tennessee, Georgia, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. I'm all over the place for tennis. Baseball, they were in this summer. Alabama, I think they went to Kentucky while I was in Georgia. And then from Georgia went to Boston. And so they're so busy doing stuff. This is my saying. I've never seen so many athletes so busy doing so much stuff, yet achieve so little in return. Meaning, I look back to the first location, and I wrote an article about this on Simply Faster about changes before the iPhone, like 2012, 2010, whenever that happened, versus after. And so before that iPhone, I equate my kids to being just savages. Kids showed up completely different. There were certainly kids that showed up out of shape and maybe weren't that serious, but we had a very different type of kid. Today, we'll have kids sign up and then they disappear for a month, 2 months, 3 months. Parents don't even realize we've discontinued their membership. Somebody emailed me the other day, can you cancel membership effectively? I said, we canceled membership August 1st because he didn't show up for, I don't know, 6, 7 weeks. We send emails. You don't even read the emails. We send text messages. They don't respond. They don't even know what's going on. And so everybody's so busy running around that the kids are not able to just stop and get quality training. And, you know, travel teams and all that stuff was going on pre-2010, but there was also maybe the geography of my gym, I sometimes wonder, was central bordered North Jersey, which those kids are different. My gym is in a beach town. I'm a mile from the beach. There's a lot of distractions here. Parents here are more of the mindset of, I just want them to have fun, or they want to retire, or they would rather, you know, there's a lot of bars here. So before they're going to invest in their kid, you know, they're going to have a fancier car and just want more of a chill lifestyle. I don't come from that. And maybe it's part genetic, you know, my whole upbringing, seeing how my dad always had to like work to climb. And I remember as a kid, I remember seeing him when he was laid off. I was a senior in high school. I still remember coming home and he had a briefcase open and he was on the portable phone and he was making plans with other guys for the next job. My dad was in medical, like surgical manufacturing. He's an engineer. Whereas a few years ago, I saw people get laid off and they just didn't go for work for 6 months.
Right.
I was like, did my dad even know he would get, I don't know, like you get paid
like
when
severance pay or whatever. Yeah.
He's like, he went home and was boom on the attack. And so my early gym had a lot of kids going to Division I schools, whether it was football, lacrosse. We had a ton of wrestlers. That was something we were known for. We don't train as many wrestlers as we once did. Our wrestlers, we had a 1,600 square foot gym. You would have a state champ. You'd have the kid he beat right there. You'd have another kid who never lost in high school, who was a 2 or 3 or even 4-time state champ. You had just savages everywhere. I mean, left, right. And if a kid didn't do the work, somebody else was grabbing them. They wouldn't let you leave. Nobody left early. There would be this one kid. We'd finish. He'd take a stopwatch, wrap it around his hand, and then he'd set up stations. We called him. He actually became a coach for us, and he's a great kid. Ray Jazz. We're like, oh no, Coach Ray Jazz taking over. And he would grab kids and be like, all right, you're training with me. And it would be time. And it would be like, you're doing timed push-ups while this guy's doing timed curls. This guy's holding a sandbag. This guy's doing like med ball throws. He just created work. He created work. And our athletes were so powerful and strong. And here's the most important word, durable. Today, the guru nerdy coaches call it robust. Now I'm going to take you to current times, something that's really a red flag for me and got me very concerned and almost disappointed. I'm a full-time strength coach at the school, as I mentioned. You obviously don't have to pay. The kids don't have to pay. It's after school. I train the in-season teams after school or football. And it's a 45-minute session. And then the next group is off-season teams. So this year, in the first month, not even the first 3 weeks, we had a kid fracture his T-spine in a football game. Okay, I told him, I said, you're a walking miracle. Because last year we had a kid that, not from our school, but from my town, got paralyzed in a football game. I told this kid, I go, you're a walking miracle, dude. I don't even know what to say to you. That's what I tell him. We had another kid dislocate his knee. Another player dislocated a shoulder. We got a torn ACL. This girl tore her other ACL in 8th grade. This girl's a sophomore. Another girl fractured her elbow. I see another girl, she's in a cast, so I think she broke her wrist. I can't even remember. I has another kid, quote unquote, rolled ankle. I never saw an ankle so swollen and bruised up. Another kid pulled hammy. And if I look at all those kids, they're either freshmen who don't have training experience, and they have low training age, but they have the overuse of the sport, or it's kids that did not train in the springtime for whatever reason, a sport, and then kids that come to the weight room, but they hold back so they could go to their private coach and go heavier there, or hold back so they could go to the local gym, do what they want there. For example, we have kids last week when we were benching, we were doing eccentrics, 5 seconds down, explosive up. I only saw one kid bench 225 for 5. Others had a plate and a 5. I mean, I really want 8th and 9th graders doing that, not JV and varsity guys doing that. And so what's happening today is, I'm going to repeat it because I know you have parents listening. The kids are so busy doing so much stuff, yet they're achieving so little in return. There's just way too many chefs. Here's the other thing. You and I do it as professionals. I hear you say it all the time. And I learned it from Dave Tate, actually. Somebody was on back in the day, the Q&A on Elite FTS. They're like, I'm a private coach. I'm reaching out to the football team. Everybody's always trying to train football players. Dave said, this is like 2006, maybe 05. He says, I would never try to just train football players. They already are in the weight room. He's like, but if you are going to train them, reach out to the coach and say, Coach Smith, I'm training one of your players, Brian Bott. Please let me know what I could do to make your job easier. What do you want me to work on with him that maybe you can't get done there? And I just started calling that fill in the gaps.
Yep.
Oh, at school, what'd you do? I squat, I bench, I cleaned. What'd you clean? I worked up to a 1 rep max. We know how that probably looks. So I was like, okay, we're cleaning today, but you're going to do speed work and you're going to just do 5 sets of 2. You benched. All right, we're going to do pull-ups and chest supported row. Oh, you just did squats. All right, we're going to do split squats. We're going to do box jumps, or, we do conjugate also. So as you know, we have so much variety. And so we fill in all the gaps. What I'm experiencing from my high school, which really disappoints me, is kids will skip their team lift and go to the private coach. And the private coach doesn't say, listen, I know you have a strength coach. You really should be there. Because last year we missed a ton of baseball players. We would have like 12 kids show up. Today I had 40 to 50 show up because the coach started taking attendance. So last week when they were coming in, I see kids during lunch. Hey man, I miss you. Where you been? Oh, I go to a private coach. But then I see them do things like squatting incorrectly. I see them not even know how to lap the dumbbells after they dumbbell bench. I see them not even know how to extend their arms on pull-ups. And it breaks my heart because you and I are also part of like trying to move this profession forward.
Yep.
And so I'll see a kid squat with his head down, feet wide, knees in. You've been going to a private coach for a year. Nobody's taught you how to line up the feet, the knees, the hips. Okay. What about you've been going to a private coach? You don't know how to dumbbell bench? One of the most elementary movements, or every time you put a weight down, your back is like banana back. And a kid said to me today, it was kind of like, I get emotional about this because it's like such a battle. And I never thought I'd be battling at the high school level. He's a freshman, struggles to do push-ups. And he said, I'm not going to do this last part. My parents don't want me to work too hard because they pay for me to go to this other place. So I said, and I knew he had a hard time understanding, so I wanted to make sure he wasn't taking it personally. I said, listen, during the warm-up, you struggled on push-ups, okay? Your core is sagging. You got to get locked in. I said, how old are you? 14, 15. I'm 14. I said, okay, my son is in your grade. So whatever I say to you is exactly what I would say to my son. I said, if you're struggling on push-ups and you go to a private coach, should you not struggle here? Should you not do your best? What's going to help you get better? I said, you're here twice a week for 45 minutes. What do you think? Work hard or skip it? He's like, work hard. And then I hate having to like say to the kids stuff like, I coached at this college. Like, it's like they don't trust you. It's very strange. So this month at my school has been almost like a heartbreaking month for me, because I've seen more injuries in 3 weeks than I've seen collectively in 3 years. And I'm seeing kids like saving for the next thing, or I'm waiting to go hard at this next place. And to me, as a private strength and conditioning coach, I remember a kid came to our gym, football player. We don't train too many football players because they train with the team. But he came one day at the 4 o'clock group. And I said, why are you here at 4? Don't you have a lift after school? Yeah, but it's no big deal. It doesn't matter. I said, actually, it does matter, because I don't want to be known as the guy that's dividing the team.
Yeah.
Okay. So you need to go there. And then when you come here, you just tell the coach, here's what we did. We will put together plan B for you. We will fill in the gaps, and I'll lose money first. I'm not going to say, oh yeah, come here. Your coach doesn't know what he's doing. You know what I tell our kids who are experienced? Help. Teach those kids how to clean. Show them how to front squat. Your coach wants to visit here, doors open anytime. How many coaches I don't know how many sport coaches have visited you. You have more gyms than me, but it happens once every few years, and it's free. Like, you could come and learn. If I had that available to me, especially like when I coached wrestling, if I used to go to the high school after I was done practicing and drill with the head coach, and he'd say, okay, show me how you teach the cradle. All right, tweak it like this. What do you do with this move? He's like, all right, try this. I built him the feeder system. I wasn't like, don't tell me what to do. I was like, hells yeah, I want to learn, get me better. To me, that's, I don't know if that's ego or laziness, to be honest. That's my concern.
Zach, you mentioned earlier, we talk about a lot of times as strength conditioning coaches, we want it more than the athlete wants it. So when you're around that situation, what do you do to foster an environment and to really try to motivate that athlete to just get out of their comfort zone and work hard?
There's a couple things with the contact / combative sports like football and wrestling. I say this to the parents and I say it to the kids all the time. My number one job is to protect you. And the kids are probably tired here. I go, how do I protect you? Get us stronger, put on body armor, build muscle, make us more powerful, build confidence through preparation. But some kids don't care if they're not starting. And so they don't care if they're on the sideline. So I'm struggling to connect with that. My advice is, if you're here, be all in. How do I motivate kids? What I'm trying to do, and when I find when it gets better, is when, you've all seen the best teams are not coach led, they're player led. Well, today I told the football team, you guys warm each other up. You create the warm up. You want to talk over each other instead of listen? Go ahead. That's up to you. So I don't know if I'm motivating, but it's more teaching accountability and responsibility. And I found myself closing out all the time. And sometimes, you see all these football speeches, and I say to myself, how many speeches do these kids need before it doesn't even mean anything to them? And so I was speaking with a high school strength coach, Scotty Fearson in Indiana, and he has a podcast called Caffeinated Coaches. And in it, he said, this is not I'm not on that team. This is their team. This is their program. This is theirs. He's like, so I don't close out ever. And I was like, oh man, I got away from that. I got away from letting the kids do it. And sometimes their closeouts kind of stink. Like, they don't have any public speaking skills. They they'll say stuff like, keep showing up. And it's like, yo, of course we're going to keep showing up. Your coach has it on the schedule. It's in season. But they learn that way. And it's almost like what Buddy Morris said about kids. You want them to be athletic? Stop saving your kid. Let him fall. So I have to let them kind of create, let them close out. And if it's not that good, it's up to them to be better. Oh, you lead the warm-up. Warm-up not that good? Up to you to make it better. So Dean, I'm trying to let them lead more.
Dean, you guys do that, Kimberly, too, even in your classes, right? The kids lead the RPR and everything. They have to learn it, right?
Yep. A good class should run itself. We set the tone and the expectations, and then they got to raise.
My friend said that. Craig Fitzgerald coaches for the Giants, and he's been at a lot of major programs. I mentioned Coach Fitz. You ever mention somebody's name and it makes you want to get better? That's how Coach Fitz is. I think about him and I want to be better. So I told him
he was at Penn State, right?
He was at Penn State.
He's nuts.
What's that?
Yeah, he's out there like in 30 degrees with his shirt off,
sure,
and
he took his
like
shirt.
doing up downs and stuff like that.
He's so hyped up. When I call him, I always say, am I speaking with Craig Fitzgerald or Coach Fitz? Because I just want to be mentally prepared for how intense the conversation's going to get. So he says to me, I told him, I go, man, these kids don't stop talking. I'm going over the workout on the whiteboard and they can't shut up. He's like, how long are you in front of the whiteboard for? I'm like, 90 seconds. He's like, too long. I go, what? He's like, listen, you're in high school, bro. He's like, get them tired first. He's like, put them on the ladders, do some military stuff, jumping jacks, squat jumps, get them sweaty, get them in front of the whiteboard for 30 seconds. And you know where he said he learned it? I think it happened to him when he was with the Houston Texans. He's like, I'm going over to work out, and he's like, these grown men are talking and not listening to me. And I think maybe I'm getting a team wrong, but I think he said it was there that the head coach said, bro, 30 seconds and get them going. Because the NFL guys are just, big kids. So when he said that, a lot of times I just say to them, there it is, guys. And I break it up because of the large numbers. Could be like 60 kids, 90 kids in the summer. I do like 3 exercises. 1A, B, C, 2A, 2B, C. Upperclassmen, underclassmen, or freshmen here. 15 minutes, switch. You get 3 water breaks in a 45-minute period, and I'll let them go. Sometimes I got to pull them in, But today, I was like, man, I'm telling kids I keep saying this one kid, bro, you've done like 20 sets of talking and 2 sets of squats, And so one of the kids cursed at him and told him to, STFU. And I was like, guess what? Sometimes you guys need to start doing that. Kids don't say that to each other. And when I asked our head football coach, why were the teams back in the day winning? Because this school won a lot of state champs, ranked number 1. He's like, because if somebody did something wrong, the other guy said, get the F on the line, sprint. Yep. They made them work. They built it. Now it's always coaches telling kids. Kids go to so many coaches. Like, you could be like, hey, did you bring your water today? I didn't know I needed water. Yeah. You did. So I'm trying to give them the power. But what I struggle with, and Ron McKeefery said I would struggle with it because I spent so much time private sector. He says, you're going to struggle with people telling you what to do, answering to people. And then the thing I struggle with is, was so used to the elite nature of the kids I've trained. This Thursday, I was at Cornell working with their regional wrestling team. That's the guys prepping for Olympics. And I was like, man, the hardest thing you do there is turn the lights on. Do this, do that. They're like the Terminator. Boom, boom. And it reminded me, long time, 2009, Blair Wrestling Academy, #1 team in the country. I was volunteer. I'd go up and help them out. The coach brings them to the gym. It's like an hour and 20 minutes away, maybe an hour and a half. Brings them to my gym. Wednesdays, they have half day. A friend of mine recorded it back in the day, flip cam. My friend was in professional baseball. He recorded them training, and at the end, he was like at a loss for words. He had never seen such relentless work ethic. They came in and just attacked everything. There was not a word said. And I miss that elite, aggressiveness. But you and I know, Brian, like coming from the college sector, if you want to be around that, then you pay the price of not seeing your family.
Yeah.
So you're paying, you're trading things that, right now is certainly not my time to be selfish about it. I got 2 kids in high school. If I'm in college, I'll miss all of their stuff or 90% of their stuff. I remember when Blair came in, I set up like sandbags from 50 pounds to 150 pounds. There was like 8 of them. They had to go around the circle, one. Then you had to go and do pull-ups, clapping push-ups, sprint around the gym next door. It was like, if I said, run through the brick wall, they would have done anything. My friend didn't even know what to say. He's like, guys, I've been around sports and pro sports. I've never seen anybody work like that. But for me, I had seen that and I'd been around it. The underground strength gym always stood for that work ethic, that grit, and that toughness. And ironically, 2 years ago, I created a new certification, okay, kind of to like change with the times, all the speed training, all the plyometrics, all the med ball throws, and the more athletic stuff. And I just said to somebody the past few weeks, I'm like, I feel like the older training that I used to do is needed more because these kids are constantly hurt. Zero durability. We have kids hurt before there's even a scrimmage,
right?
Which means they can't handle summer practice, which is not hard. It's just install. They don't even have like pads on. How are you hurt? I'll tell you how you're hurt. You're training fancy that does not build the body. It looks great on Instagram, but it does not develop a durable, powerful athlete. That's what we're missing.
So Zach, talking kind of about the underground strength room a little bit, and I mean, things have changed, right? And you talked about the iPhone and things like that. And now, building a brand, with your business is ultra important, using social media, using YouTube, using all those things. When do you think that really changed? Because, at the end of the day now, from our perspective and what we do, the way we do our social media is it's education. Like, I'm not trying to promote our gyms. We're trying to educate. So I want parents, when they walk in our gym, to know what their kids are going to do, know what our culture is, know all those other things. That's how we use it. When do you think, because you've been in the private sector a lot longer than I have, when do you think that really changed? I mean, you have a great social media following, obviously. Joe has a huge social media following. When do you think all that really changed and the value of it now? I mean, it's a huge value of it, obviously, but
when the iPhone technically became a computer, when it spent more time in people's hands. I mean, you go out to dinner with your wife and there's other couples not even talking to each other. They're staring at their phone. Gary Vaynerchuk is like, I don't care. He's like, I'm happy for them because that makes them happy. But I have my boots on the ground around teenagers, for over 20 years now. So I've seen what it does. And, I think we're seeing the de-evolution of the athlete, the decline of a lot of social skills, and people judge you by what they see on your social media. And I still remember a lot of parents saying things like, I've been following you for 6 months or years. And what it says to me is, it's interesting how long it takes for somebody to jump the gun, but people are judging you by these little bits and pieces they see. So they're only really scratching the surface, right? People still say things to me like, oh, you just train wrestlers. Really? Our videos are like loaded with lacrosse, baseball, basketball, football, swimmers. How are we still just training wrestlers? That's like, we never just trained wrestlers, but still people will say those things. But here's the other thing. You know how many people don't know what I do? For example, I'm at this high school. We have a new wrestling coach. And he's telling me basically, I don't think the wrestling team's going to train with you anymore. He's like, I think I'll go in the weight room after we're done with practice to do a plate workout. So somebody was like, dude, does he not know that you're the guy when it comes to training wrestlers? So you think people know, but I feel that there's so much noise now that you're just trying to get them to, if I look at your Instagram, what I know is that my kid, no matter where they are at whatever gym I go to of sport, whatever location of Sports Advantage, the technique looks the same everywhere. Nobody's got a round back. Everybody's jumping, sprinting proper. But I'm a coach, so I understand technique.
Appreciate that coming from you. That means a lot.
I think a lot of parents don't know what they're watching. They don't know. Like, think about it. That kid who could barely do 5 push-ups, his parents told him not to work too hard with me. But that's actually the norm. But, I know Gary Vee says this. He's like, you never know who's watching. You never know if you have 14 followers, but one of them is, the owner of, I don't know, whatever, name a pro team. He's like, you don't know who that's going to happen. Like that dude, Coach Cav, Justin Kavanaugh. I think one of those big pro, maybe it was not Stone Cold Steve Austin. Oh, well, Goldberg. Goldberg was watching his YouTube videos and was like, dude, I need you out here in Texas to train my son. And I'll fly. So you never know. So I think you got to keep putting out quality info. I don't like to do it a lot, but like here, I see my phone going off. Our rule, not a rule, but I tell my coaches, hey, send me one photo or one video every day so I could share it, because you never know when somebody's new, they're not scrolling back, and you just keep putting your work out there. Although I think you have the flip side. I did a podcast with Andy Baker in Texas. He's a starting strength guy, trains adults. He shares his gym with another guy, and Andy goes in from like 5 a.m. till 10 a.m. or 12 noon. The other guy comes in at like 3 p.m. till 7 or 8. No website, no nothing, just an email, and he's packed with athletes, word of mouth. So I think it always depends on your geography. I actually thought having a gym I'm in a town that's less than 2 square miles. I've been here 11 years. I mean, we usually hover around 70 athletes, 60, 70, summertime, 75, 80. I mean, I don't think we've ever had more than 10% of our kids come from this town, and you could ride your bike or walk to the gym. So I think the location and where you are is important. Like when I went to Cornell Thursday, any of their New Jersey wrestlers were all North Jersey. North Jersey has a different vibe than being by the beach. North Jersey is hustle. You're near Manhattan. You have a lot of high-level private schools. You also have high-level, North Jersey football is very competitive. And I pay attention to those little things. Oh, all these kids are from that same pocket in North Jersey. And there's like 5 of them, but they're all killers.
Zach, talk about balance and all this. You got your own private gym, then you go to a high school, you work there, help out that program. You just wrote a book. So, how do you do all this? And you're married and you got kids.
No, normally I don't do anything at night, so I felt bad asking you guys to do this, but my daughter had a tennis match. And then after the tennis match, I went to my gym to meet there's a small college about 25 minutes away that has an exercise science program. And I was talking with them about creating an advisory board and being on their advisory board and getting interns. So I met them at 5:30. But I'm only at my gym now on Wednesdays. So I'm getting out of my school at 4 p.m. and I come home, or I go straight to something with my daughter's tennis or my son's baseball or basketball or family time. So pretty much by dinner time, I shut it down. Certainly sometimes I come down here at night to work. I wake up early and usually to get like an hour to 90 minutes of work before anybody wakes up. It just got slightly easier because my daughter just got her license. So now she drives to tennis, which really saves us. But I woke up today at 5:30, and last night I put the chicken in the fridge marinating. I'm like really big on the morning. That was actually that's what got me to quit my teaching job the first time. I just wanted to have breakfast with my family, because I would wake up and work, and then I would go to work at the school. On my lunch break, I'd work. Then I'd go open my gym. And then when I was done coaching, I would lift. And so by the time I left for school, my wife and daughter were not awake yet. And then by the time I came home, they were in bed, and it was killing me. And my daughter was a baby. And I remember I paid Gary Vaynerchuk a consultation. I was going to pay him 10 grand. And somehow it came out to $3,000 for the hour. And he's like, what is your big goal? And I still have the notes somewhere. What is your big goal? You know, he was waiting for me to say $1 million and 10 gyms. I was like, I just want to, I want to run my business, you know, not teach. I was like, I want to have breakfast with my family. He's like, that's it. You know, and by the way, he was like, dude, why don't you get your gym out of Edison, go to North Jersey, where he knew is a lot of money in North Jersey, very affluent. He's like, and just train a bunch of house moms. I was like, dude, I'm not training adults. I train athletes. That's what I do. I'm not a sellout. I told him I'm not selling out. I don't care. I train athletes. That's what I do. I couldn't do it. He's like, that's to get to your money goal. He's like, you got to train rich housewives. I didn't really understand the power of geography back then. You know, I have friends that run gyms in North Jersey. People make so much money in North Jersey when they work in Manhattan. Like, it's just their second home is in my town, and a home in my town is a Cape costs you like 1.1 million. That's their second house. So up there, to have kids in, you know, private baseball, private training, it's nothing to them. It's nothing. Down here, it's just people kind of conserve their money differently. But I'd say I'm getting better at balance. There's no such thing as real balance, but we do get a lot of quality family time. Of course, as the kids got older with the sports, those family times are on the road. We are together at the baseball tournaments. We are together at the tennis tournaments. And then we make something out of it. We make a weekend out of it, or an extended weekend out of it. Because here I am, I'm 48 in a few months, and my daughter's a junior. My son's a freshman. Like, you know, you guys know you got kids. It's like, whoa, I remember you were born like a minute ago. So I got very good at always knowing I need a team, even though I hate, you know, trying to manage anything. I turn everybody into their own manager. I say, when you're here, you run the gym. And we don't hold meetings because everybody's part-time. But what we do at the end of the night is you send an audio text message just for like a quick update. Hey, I trained Dean. Dean tweaked his shoulder pitching, so we didn't go overhead. We did band pulls. This way the next person has continuity. It's a awesome 3 or 4 minute audio message. I'm a big fan of simplifying. That just matches my personality. I don't like to complicate it, even if everybody else is doing it. I spoke with my buddy today, Matty Nickel. He's up in Canada, trains with a lot of pro hockey players. And I was talking to him about all the injuries. And I said, what's crazy is everybody still wants to do this fancy stuff. He's like, hey, bro, when they zig, you zag. Be you. He's like, keep doing the underground strength gym. And so sometimes a friend will remind me and say, yo, live your truth. Stick to your guns. So we do get a lot of family time. Right now, I'm only coaching at my private facility Wednesdays. I do have a coach that is probably going to be in the police academy soon. He's been with me 7 years. So my other coach will pick up those days. Probably won't pick up all of them. So I'll probably be back on twice a week. And kind of like what we said earlier is, when I was at college, even though I was just with wrestling, our matches in the Big Ten is Friday and Sunday. And so I'm there quite a lot, even with just one team. And I remember during this town as like a midwinter break, I couldn't take those vacations. I remember I took a summer vacation, and the director was like, "Hey, hope you're having fun on vacation." I'm like, "It's August. I've been destroying our guys. They need a vacation from me.
Right.
So chill out. The place is not going to burn down." So we're always trading one. The grass is not always greener. At my school, nobody's really telling me what to do, although it's still actually a struggle to get the coaches to trust. It's a struggle to get the coaches to even stop in the weight room and see what their kids are doing. And so what I'm trying to do as I've gotten older is to just be wiser and to learn to handle things better. The toughest thing, in my opinion, is I can't shut off the passion button. I'm just fired up about it all the time because I want to see kids succeed, because I know what happens when they're given the right direction, with nutrition, with lifestyle, with decision making. This is all a vehicle for a better human, because we know not many of them are going to compete in college. But I know that if, when I'm talking, you could listen, or you could work hard, or be a great teammate, or lead this group into a warm-up, or take them through the workout, you could lead outside of here. And so I'm just trying to give them the best opportunity. I'm trying to give them everything that guys our age didn't have, because that information wasn't out there. They are, there was a book by Ed, I'm forgetting his name, it was called Time Collapsing, where he's like, I'm teaching you things, so instead of it taking you 10 years, you could condense it to 10 weeks and just skyrocket the success. That's what we're trying to do.
Zach, so now you've been around this profession for 25, 30 years, right? So I'm gonna kind of put you on the spot here. Okay.
No pressure. I love it.
You're in tune with a lot of different people, a lot of different entities across the world. So I'm gonna give you 5 people that you can pick from, that our listeners, that they're 5 people that you think our listeners should be watching, following, getting information from, because they're putting out quality content. Because we're all 3 of us are by the growth mindset, right? We're always looking for, give me 5.
All right. Can I look at my phone for the podcast that I listen to?
You can. You don't have to say Sports Advantage. Don't worry about it. Everybody got that.
It's right there, baby.
Yeah.
Let me pull up the shows. Okay. Well, I love Dave Tate's Table Talk. I actually just asked people on Twitter, I want some like under the radar podcasts that people aren't listening to. I think that's a great one. My buddy John Wellborn, I love him, at Power Athlete. Joe DeSena, if you could just read his books, Google, listen to anything about Joe DeSena. One that's really under the radar is Steve from Voodoo Power, or it's called like More Plates and Pancakes. Steve is on a farm. He's like a cowboy who's also doing strength and conditioning.
Wow,
he's
cool.
Amazing. So did I give you 4?
That's 4.
And man, of course somebody's going to feel left out. But like, I just look at all my books here. You mention Louis Simmons all the time. If you're not learning from Louis, I don't even know what to tell you. I would call Louis every week. We'd be on the phone and he would, just share. And that's maybe why I understood him, because if you listen to me, I went from right to left to forwards and 10 years back. He talks in stories. And that just makes sense to me, to learn from somebody who's saying, hey, Louis, how do you train wrestlers? Well, I just train 3 wrestlers and they're all, they're this weight and that weight. I remember him telling me, training these 3 wrestlers that all weighed like 106 pounds. And he told me one of them benched 205. And I'm like, whoa, I got a kid in my garage who weighs 185 and can't bench 205. You got a kid that weighs 105. And then he's telling me about slamming medicine balls for 5 minutes, training Kevin Randleman, back in the early days. And just, I look, Louis, and of course, I love all his old stuff. And I got books piled high around me, guys. I mean, those are 5. But then there's a lot of books that I think you should read that people don't know about. Like Marty Gallagher's Purposeful Primitive. Did you ever read that book? Oh my God. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Marty Gallagher's books and his old podcast, amazing. Old stuff from Pavel and even new stuff. I love it. Johnny Parker, The System. But you know what you got to do? Call Johnny Parker. Oh my God. Message him on Facebook. Get him on the podcast. Thank me later.
Awesome.
He makes you want to be better at he makes you a better coach. He said, good coaches coach weights. Great coaches coach people. And I got to put that to remind me.
I love that. I love that quote.
I love the old books. I got Super Squats. I got Bill Starr's Starting Strength. These old books, The Way to Live, George Hackenschmidt. I love these old books. These are books from, 50s, 60s, 70s. Those to me, that's who paved the way before us. And everything was so beautiful because of the basics. It reminds me when I was in high school, the football team won 3 state titles. All they did was bench, squat, and I remember vividly seeing guys only squat halfway down, but they squatted heavy. They did press behind the neck. Saw them do a lot of curls. We had the old universal machine, so they did push downs, but they did everything together as a team. After a football game, you'd go to McDonald's. There was like 80 football players there.
Awesome.
They were a family. Where one was, the other was. And so I feel like they were following the old strength training books, the Get Big Drinks. Strength coaches need to read that stuff. They need to read. I think they've gotten so fancy. But look, I learn also from current day. Like I just messaged Cal Dietz looking at all these books. But those 5 and then the 5 old ones, Bill Starr, Old York Barbell, Bob Hoffman books. I have a great podcast they should watch called Iron Roots. It's on my YouTube. It's all of the old stuff they should learn. And that should be like staff development, professional development for the coaching staff. It's video. They'll love it. It's a lesson from like a book or an exercise program that usually dates back to, most of them were from like 70s, 60s. Yeah.
Zach, as you know, Get Your Edge podcast, we ask every one of our guests what their Get Your Edge advice would be. So you're on.
Get Your Edge is every day, do your honest best so that you could look yourself in the mirror and be honest with yourself and gave my absolute best. But if you're a coach or a father or a husband, can you go back and face the people you love the most and tell them what you did that day? And would they be proud of you? That to me would be how you get your edge. Can I tell my kids how I worked, the effort I gave? Would they be proud of me for those actions? To me, that's everything. That's why my books are dedicated to my kids, my son and daughter, and my grandfather. My grandfather escaped the Holocaust. My first and middle name are named after his 2 brothers he lost in the Holocaust. My grandfather was in the Polish army, the Russian army, and then the Israeli army. In the Special Forces Israeli army, it was before the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force. So whenever I'm having like a hard day, tough time, I ask myself, like, are you walking across the country, escaping Holocaust to the next military you need to join? Like, how hard is life? And, I just try to make him proud and my kids. So, because if I can make them proud, then I'm doing good. And that to me is the most important edge you can have, honesty to self and with your family or whoever you love the most.
Zach, this has been absolutely awesome. I mean, the passion is so transparent, through your voice, through the way you do things. Obviously family is such an important part for you, but also giving to the athletes that you serve and provide, and wanting the best for them. And we all know as coaches that wanting the best for the kids doesn't always mean what they want.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that's what's being a great coach is you have to know and believe what's best for the kids, whether they agree with it or not. And you have to stand firm on what you believe. Dino, any more thoughts for Zach before we hop off?
No, appreciate you coming on, Zach. It's later at night and everything's probably calmed down at your household. And this has been an awesome podcast. And
thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being on. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Well, Z, at some point I got to come out to New Jersey. We've talked about that.
I got to come out to you too.
Yeah,
bro.
either way, both. Get you out here for a Badger game or something, or Packer.
Are you guys about to watch some NFL Monday football?
Oh yeah.
I feel bad for my boy Fitz. The Giants are struggling.
Yeah,
he's such a great guy. He's awesome.
Well, I tell you what, the Zach Wilson, he played his tail off last night. I thought he was great for the Jets.
And
that
then
was a great game.
I didn't watch the end. How did they lose? Was it overtime? Was it?
The Chiefs just got like 3 or 4 third downs and kind of ran the clock out. He fumbled a snap that, I don't know. I thought he played really well. It was fun to watch. The defense couldn't get off the field. I think the Chiefs had the ball for 8 minutes, and
Jets
of course,
all the time.
Of course, it was great though
because
because my wife's all into it now that Taylor Swift's on, and Ryan Reynolds is like her favorite actor, and so she was all in the game last night. So that was we had some good quality time watching Sunday Night Football.
I never watched football. I've been watching it a bit now, and it's cool. I don't know. I like to watch it and try to figure out the game. Coming from wrestling, I'm trying to just make sense of it all.
Well, it'll be interesting. I hope it'll be interesting if Travis Kelce and her break up, because those jerseys will go right in the trash. All those Swifties, they'll be burning his jerseys left and right.
Dude,
Anyways, we're going to leave with that. We'll see you next time on the Get Your Edge podcast. Chop it.